Hey there, nation, and welcome to the show where we help you to play miniatures wargaming on a budget. It is I, Commander Cheapskate, and we are back with another episode of Commander Cheapskate Gamer Reviews. And on today's episode, we're going to take a brand new look at the latest expansion to Necromunda by Games Workshop. This is Necromunda Aranthian Succession, the Vaults of Temenos. This actually just dropped yesterday on Saturday, and we're going to actually get to take a deep dive on this video and talk a little bit more about this expansion that's available for new players. Now, if you're wondering what we're going to be covering in this video review, we're going to be covering some very specific things. We're going to talk a little bit about the lore as well as a brand new Crusading gangs game mechanic that is now available for gangs who are interested in using this mechanic in their campaigns. There also another expansion to the Aranthian Succession campaign, part 2, called The Road to Temenos. We're going to talk about that specific campaign as well as some of the brand new narrative scenarios that have also dropped from this expansion. At the same time, we'll also talk about some of the new fighters that are now available in this expansion. That was actually one of the things that actually drew my attention to this campaign, to this book. I wanted to buy this book for those new fighter rules, as well as new vehicle rules as well that have now popped up in this edition, as well as not as much, but some new equipment, primarily for the Cawdor houses and Cawdor gangs are planning on using these rules for their future campaigns, as well as a little bit about the information about the Dramatist Personae on this. So that's basically what we're going to do for this video. We're going to go kind of a deeper dive on this one, and because this video is going to be a little bit longer, if you want to look for timestamps down below in my description box, I'm going to have exactly timestamps for different parts that we're reviewing, so that way you can just click and choose as you want to navigate. And at the end, of course, we'll give you our overall conclusion about this product. So that being said, let's get this video review on a roll. Alright, so let's go and talk about the lore real quick about the background of this. Now, I'm not much of a lore guy when it comes to the rules. I'm more of a rules guy when it comes to these kind of settings, but just to give you guys an idea what's happening, basically the overall narrative is with this civil war taking place on Necromunda with House Aranthian slowly coming back to try to regain control over the planet. You basically also have a religious crusade that's taking place where pretty much all these redemptionists as well as House Cawdor guys are launching a religious crusade towards Hive Temenos. Apparently in Hive Temenos there's a long dead saint that's buried somewhere beneath that hive, and the redemptionists are planning on bringing him back, this saint back from the dead, in order to strike fear and bring order to the people of Necromunda at the same time. So because this kind of sets up the campaign for kind of like a lot of sectarian violence taking place on Necromunda, with a quasi-religious war taking place between different factions who decided to be swept up in the crusade or not to be swept up in the crusade, and also a lot of political intrigue. So it actually opens it up for a lot of interesting game mechanics for the game, which is something I appreciate, because adding a lot of diversity to a gaming system like this makes it fresh, also brings in a lot of new players as well, and also kind of shakes things up a little bit for older players to try something new in their campaign. So I wholly support this shift in the lore taking place. Now, one of the coolest things that we have available now with this rule system is what's known as a Crusading gang. It is a brand new game mechanic, which is actually kind of cool, and it can apply for any gang of any sort in your campaigns in Necromunda. Pretty much the idea is supposed to be that there are 6 different saints that you could actually pledge your allegiance to for your gang to become a Crusading gang, alright? And when you pledge yourself to this particular saint or a patron saint, you basically get a couple of blessings from it. First of all, you get a conduit. A conduit is pretty much just a low-level psyker for the most part that can also do things for you. At the same time, you also have tenets that you must follow during battles, and if you don't follow these tenets of faith, you can suffer some consequences. So it's kind of a neat little way to kind of add some extra flavor and spice to your campaigns in Necromunda. So like I said before, you pretty much have 6 different gangs you can choose from. For example, one of the 6 you could talk about is Calibre, the Lord of Bullets. Calibre is the patron saint of ranged weaponry in Necromunda. And a couple of things that you get, for example, is once per round you may reroll any failed ammo rolls that you may take. So that's kind of a nice thing, especially if you have a more powerful weapon. Another benefit of pledging yourself to Calibre, the Lord of Bullets, is that once per battle, a weapon can either lose its scarcity trait or it can gain the plentiful trait instead for another weapon as well. So that's kind of nice. If you're running around with some really powerful weapons like plasma weapons, for example, you can get rid of that scarcity trait for some of those and make it really awesome. Now, an example of a tenets of faith, for example, is if you end up ending the battle with 2 or more fighters carrying out of ammo markers, you must pay D3 times 10 credits to the arbitrator, so that way you gain the saint's favor again as a penalty for not following those tenets, for example. Now, as for the conduit, like I said before, they're basically a psyker. You choose a member of your gang to be the conduit for your gang, so I highly suggest you pick someone with a pretty decent willpower stat line. And what you can do, of course, is gain different psychic abilities that kind of buff up your gang. For example, one of the powers they give you is called Blessed Weapon, which gives you an additional point of armor piercing for a melee weapon. It's a basic action to get that spell off, for example. And there's plenty of other different ones as well. So that's some of the things that's kind of interesting about having a Crusading gang with this new campaign mechanic. And because this is part of the Aranthian Succession campaign, this is part 2 of that campaign system, so they bring to you another campaign that you can play as well, a narrative-based one. It's called the Road to Temenos campaign, and just like always, you either start with 1,000 credits to start a brand new gang for this, or 1,400 credits if you plan on going to the Ash Waste as well, so they still have that. At the same time, you can still carry over your gangs if you decide to do the Aranthian Succession in the very first time from part 1, where you had 2,000 or 2,400 credits to build your gang. You can still take that gang after participating in that campaign series and then bring them over to the Road of Temenos campaign setting as well, which is kind of cool. If you decide to do that, there is a underdog game mechanic that is built into that campaign system. Pretty much the idea for that is that you get bonuses for different to experience points gained based on the differences between point values between your gang as well as your opponent's gang. And they're called underdog battles. Pretty much if your gang rating is at least 400 credits lower than your opponent's, then they're considered to be underdogs, and everyone in the gang that participates earns additional experience points. So it's kind of like the old balancing mechanic that they used to use for underdog bonuses in the original Necromunda, which is also kind of cool as well. So we have that going on for that. At the same time, what you're also doing, you could also choose one of 3 sides to participate in this campaign. You could either be aligned, or you could be an ally of the House Helmwar, the Imperial House as they call it in this setting, or Lady Credo's Rebellion, and you get different benefits and penalties depending on which side of the conflict you decide to go with. So depending on how you carried on in the first campaign, you can either continue on with those alignments, or you can change it up. It's entirely up to you. Now the goal for this campaign is to control what they call relics in this game mechanic. So a relic is literally what it sounds like. It's a historically important religious artifact that fighters in your gang can actually carry, which is actually kind of neat. So it's not like a territory, because the territories aren't really so much of a thing on this one as the number of relics you control for your gang. For example, there's one called the Bullets of the Fallen Saint, and what it does is that gives you a boon of d6 times 10 credits as people pay you with alms of recognition, support, and respect for the patron saint's relic you may carry, and whoever ends up carrying that relic gets a 6-up armor save that can't be modified regardless of the situation. So that's an example of how these relics work. So for the first half of the campaign, you're of course fighting each other to gain these relics, and then of course for the rest of the campaign, for the second half, you're trying to take each other's relics, and the ones with the most relics obviously are the ones who end up winning the most. So it's kind of a cool little thing, because not only does it give you money for your game, but also gives your fighters individual buffs as well, which is always a cool thing to have. So with this campaign, of course, you also have narrative-based scenarios. There are 7 new scenarios in total. 3 of these scenarios do take place in the Ash Waste, so vehicles will be allowed. The other 4 do not. So if you want to go out to the Ash Waste, or if you want to stay in the Underhive without vehicles, there are plenty of scenarios that you can do for both. So that's another nice game mechanic as well. And just like in the very first Aranthian Succession book, what ends up happening is that they give you not only the normal rules for the scenario, but how you can also narratively fit it within the overall campaign setting, and they actually give you a little bit of rules and some things how to change it up if you want to go with that narrative base. So if you're a narrative wargamer and you've been really participating in the Aranthian Succession, this is just a continuation on that, and that makes it super awesome. Alright, so let's go ahead and talk about exactly about the new fighters that are available for gangs now. And this is the reason why I specifically purchased this product, is because of one of the new rules for the new crew members and fighters and stuff that are available for gangs. So let's talk about that. First of all, we have what is known as the Road Preacher. House Caldor actually gets 2 new types of crew members. If you have a law-abiding Caldor gang, this person is known as the Caldor Road Preacher, and if you're a Redemptionist gang, this guy is also known as the Redemptionist Road Preacher. Now, the Caldor Road Preacher costs 30 credits, while the Redemptionist Road Preacher costs 35. For their stats, they basically have a ballistic skill 4, leadership 7, cool 7, willpower 7, and intelligence 7 for the Caldor Road Preacher. The Road Preacher also has the pious special rule, like from the Book of Faith, as well as one of the faithful, so they can generate faith dice as well. Now, for the Redemptionist Road Preacher, they have a 4-up for ballistic skill, 4+. They have 8 for leadership, 6 for cool, 6 for willpower, and 9 for intelligence. They also have the fanatical special rule that came with them from the House of from the House of Faith rulebook, as well as they also generate faith dice as well. So that part is pretty neat. And just like their other their other road crew members from other gangs, they have the same kind of stats with shooting as well as driving as their primary skills. At the same time, they also have custom vehicles that they could take as well. Equipment exactly the same as everybody else's crew members from the other supplements that have released up to this point. So not too much changing from there. So now Redemptionists as well as Cawdor have dedicated crews, which is really awesome because now Orlok, Escher, Hull, Goliath, and I think Delac also has one too because Games Workshop released that on the Warhammer Communities page. Now the big draw for me was the Cawdor Way Brethren, which is the brand new prospect level fighter that's available now for Cawdor gangs. So they can have these guys in their gangs. They cost 80 credits a piece, so let's talk about them real quick. So they have a 6-inch movement stat as well as 4+ weapon skill, 5+ ballistic skill, 3 strength, 3 toughness. They have 1 wound, 3 initiative, 1 attack. They have 8 leadership, 7 cool, 8 willpower, as well as 9 intelligence. They're gang fighters with the prospect ranking. They can also be promoted to either be Cawdor Firebrands or Redemptionist Deacons, so Redemptionist gangs could take these guys as well. At the same time, they come with the Born in the Saddle special rule, Hot-Headed special rule, Fast Learner special rule, and they also have the Pious special rule attached to them as well. Now, when it comes to their skills, they have Ferocity as a primary with Combat and Agility as their secondaries, and they also come in with the Ridgewalker. The Ridgewalker, of course, being that piece of personal equipment that was kind of like advertised for these guys, those little walking ostrich-looking things that are running around as well. Now, while equipped with a Ridgewalker, a fighter gains the mounted condition and all of its associated rules. In addition, it increases the fighter's movement characteristic by 9 inches, so instead of running 6, they now run 9 inches, which is really cool. And the fighter also applies a +1 modifier to any initiative check they need to take, which is really awesome as well. In fact, if you look at the artwork that's available for these guys, you see these things climbing around on terrain pieces and stuff, so it's kind of cool. Makes them like walk a little bit faster, which is kind of neat for these guys as well. Kind of makes them kind of like the Dustspike Hellamites that way. Now, when it comes to their equipment, of course, they have access to almost all the normal equipment that most Cawdor guys actually have, except for some new equipment. So we're going to talk about that real quick. So first of all, they have access to lances. Lances have this new game mechanic called a lance bomb, which means they close combat weapon, and once they use the bomb at the end of it, it goes away. They have the explosive charge that they attack with, and then for the rest of the turn, they use what's known as a lance after that. You can purchase frag lances for 35 credits, crack lances for 50 credits, or stun lances for 30 credits, and their explosive counterparts are exactly the same as the normal throne variants, except afterwards, of course, they become lance weapons instead. And lance weapons are actually very similar to what is known as a charger weapon, which is one of the brand new pieces of equipment that is available for a Cawdor gang. So let's go ahead and talk about that real quick. So when it comes to the lances real quick, once you used up your melee version of it, not your melee version, I'm sorry, your primed version, which is your explosive, you have what's called the spent version. It's a 2-inch versatile weapon that gives you +1 accuracy to hit. It's your same strength value that you use as always, causes 1 damage. It also gives you the lance, melee, as well as versatile traits, so that part's kind of nice. But now we have the new Cawdor Charger, and a Cawdor Charger is very similar to the Cawdor polearms that came before it, with the autogun or the blunderbuss attached to it. Exact same thing with the purgation shot added to that as well. The difference though is with the Charger, it's a 2-inch versatile weapon with a +1 strength modifier, just like the polearm does as well, with 1 damage, but you can also use it while mounted. It has the lance special rule attached to it as well. So you can either go with the charger weapons with either autogun or a blunderbuss, or you can go with the lance weapons. It's pretty much up to you how you want to do it for that. So that part is kind of nice as well when it comes to these characters. Now for those lance weapons, if you want to take a lance charger with an autogun, it's 25 credits. A lance charger with a blunderbuss or with grape shot and purgation shot is 45 credits. And now you also have a lance Cawdor Charger with a flamethrower attached to it as well, which is really nice, and that's 145 credits. They can take those weapons as well, which makes them really neat. At the same time, they also can purchase a brand new weapon called a hand crossbow. So now we're starting to see bows and arrows and crossbows come back for this as well. It costs 10 credits. It's a sidearm one with an 8-inch short range, 12-inch long range, +1 to hit with short range, strength 3, 1 damage, ammo roll 6 up, but it comes with a plentiful trait, so that's not a problem. It's also got a sidearm, and it's also silent. So if you're looking for some cheap silent weapons that you want to use for a Cawdor gang, look no further than the Way Brethren. So that part is really cool as well. And that was the main reason why I wanted to purchase this rulebook, was so that way I can learn a little bit more about the Way Brethren and the Cawdor crew members that came with it. Now, if you're also an Enforcer player, you have some really cool things that came with this rulebook as well. One of them, of course, is the hard case Cyber Mastiff. It's an exotic beast that Enforcer gangs can take. You can take up to 2 of these guys in a gang list. They cost 130 credits. So let's talk about their stats. They got a 5-inch movement, 3+ weapon skill, 3 strength, 4 toughness, 1 wound, 4 initiative, 2 attacks, 8 leadership, 6 cool, 7 willpower, as well as 8 intelligence. And they cost 130 credits apiece. They also come with a rule called Tenacious, which basically means if a Cyber Mastiff is taken out of action, do not remove it from the battlefield if it has not yet activated this round. Once the hard case Cyber Mastiff has completed its activation, then you remove from the battlefield. So these guys are a little bit more durable as well. And because they are hard case, they count as having light carapace armor as well as respirators, which makes them really cool as well. And of course, they have the Faithful Protector special rule, which is the case with most dogs and everything else like that. Except that I believe the Cyber Mastiff has a 6-inch range modifier, which makes it a little bit different. Now, for its skill access, it has combat for primary skill and frost is secondary skill. And they may not purchase any weapons or war gear. And they're also armed with a shock bite as their main primary source of attack, which is also very cool as well. So let's go and talk about that real quick. So a shock bite basically gives you it's a melee attack. Strength is like the normal strength attack as the Cyber Mastiff with a -1 AP, 1 damage. It's got melee, rending, as well as shock. So if you roll that 6, it automatically causes problems for your enemy. So that's a really cool exotic beast ability that you can get now for your Enforcer gangs. And one of the cool ones that you got, of course, is the Enforcer Sanctioner Pattern Automata, which is your brute now for Enforcer gangs. You can get up to 2 of these guys. They cost 205 credits apiece. So let's talk about these guys real quick. So a lot of cool new bells and whistles for an Enforcer gang. They have a 5-inch movement with 4+ weapon skill and ballista skill, 4 strength, 5 toughness, 3 wounds, 5 initiative, 2 attacks. They have 8 leadership, 7 cool, 6 willpower, as well as 9 intelligence. Now they automatically come what is known as a pacifier assault claw. They already have that, as well as a heavy shock baton and a grenade launcher array with photon flash grenades. All right, they're also equipped with light carapace armor, so that's really cool. Now you can equip their weapons with a concussion cannon for 80 credits, a sanction pattern man catcher for 100 credits, or a sledge pattern assault for additional 40 credits. At the same time, you can also purchase additional grenades for the grenade launcher array. You can buy choke gas grenades for 35, scare gas grenades for 45, smoke grenades for 15, or stun grenades for 25. And of course, you can upgrade your light carapace armor to heavy carapace armor for additional 20 credits. Now, another cool thing about this thing too is it's got a special rule called automated repair systems. And basically, during the recovery and restart setup of the end phase, do not roll if this fighter recovers from being seriously injured. It automatically recovers as if a flesh wound has been rolled in the injury dice. You also have mobile bulwark, and if anybody is obscured by this thing of any sort, they count as being in full cover because they protect their fighters as well. At the same time, when it comes to skill access, it has ferocity as its primary skill as well. It also has agility and combat as their secondary skills, so that part is really cool about it as well. And at the same time, I believe it comes with a Got Your 6 special rule is what it has as well to help you guys out with that whole situation. Now let's go and talk about its weapons real quick. So we got to talk about its grenade launcher array. It's got a 6 to 18 inch range, 6 inches for short, 18 inches for long range. Unfortunately, it can't take any frag or crack grenades, I guess because it make it too powerful if that was the case, but I can kind of understand how that works. Now, your sledge pattern assault ram, however, can take auxiliary grenades with frag grenades. So if you want to get that frag grenade option, you'll have to purchase that little that little tidbit for that. At the same time, you equip with this concussion cannon. It comes with a 9-inch short range, 18 long range, +1 accuracy for the short range, strength 4, -1 AP, 2 damage, 4 up on the ammo roll. It comes with a 3-inch blast radius trait, concussion, knockback, as well as seismic. So that's part's kind of nice. With its Sanctioner pattern, with its pacifier assault cannon, which is standard with this thing, it's a melee attack with its same strength, -1 AP, causes 2 damage, got melee and pulverize. Or if you go with the Sanctioner pattern man catcher, the melee aspect of it is the same strength, -1 AP, 1 damage, entangle as well as melee for its traits. And then it also has a range attack, which uses a template attack instead, which also causes strength 5. It's also got a 5+ for ammo save, and the reason why is because it's got the silent trait. It uses a template, and it's also a web, so it's kind of like a giant web gun, which is kind of cool as well, so that way you can bring in the guys in. And of course, you have the heavy shock baton, which it comes with a standard as well. It's got a standard melee attack with strength +1, 2 damage, causing concussion, melee, parry, as well as shock. So that's another cool thing that you can do to add towards your Sanctioner and get some brutes for yourself as well. Unfortunately, the one thing I was said about, I was hoping they'd have some kind of crew member available for Paladin Enforcer gangs, you know, just like a wheelman or a driver, but unfortunately there are no Enforcer crews still, so you're still resorting to hiring Hive Scum drivers if you want to have a driver for your gang. Alright, so let's talk about the brand new vehicle that is now available to Ashways gangs, that of course being the Chronos Pattern Iron Crawler. So now that thing is now available for gangs, and if you want to look for that rule set, it are now available. They cost 390 credits. They have 6-inch movement, 9 front, side, and toughness, as well as 8 rear, 7 hull points, 6+ handling characteristic, 3+ save. It's a transport vehicle with a large transport cage behind it, so that's the nice part about it. It also has what is known as a fire point on this vehicle. Excuse me. Now, fire points is a brand new rule that's available for vehicles. You can add additional fire ports to a transport cage for 15 credits per fire point, and this upgrade does not use any upgrade slots. So that's kind of nice. And when activated, any model embarked upon a vehicle with a transport cage with at least 1 fire point may prefer the following actions as part of their activation. They can shoot basic and reload simple, and the shooting attack result as if emanating from the fire point. You place a vision arc template against the fire point to check what the fire can see, and each fire point may only have 1 fighter to fire from it each round, and all fire points are also subject to the unstable platform rule. And now the unstable platform rule is that fighters may not perform the aim basic action or fire weapons with unwieldy trade while they're embarked in a transport cage with fire points. So if you wanted to get that additional accuracy, but that using that basic aim action, that's not going to help you out. It's only really meant to really suppress your enemy as well. Now the Chronos Pattern Iron Crawler has 4 body, 4 drive, as well as 4 engine upgrade slots. For its body upgrades, it can take a blade of armor, crash cages, escape hatches, reinforced armor, or weapon stashes. For its drive upgrades, all-wheel steering, emergency brakes, power stealing, and redundant drive systems. For engine upgrades, they can take an easy turnover engine, an engine shell, a nitro burner smoke vents. They can take for their weapons a grenade with frac and crack grenades, or a heavy stubber. And for their war gear, they can take booby trap fuel tanks, flare launchers, headlights, as well as smoke launchers. So that part is kind of neat with it as well. So pretty cool vehicle. It's also tracked as well in case if they didn't give you the impression about it. Now, unlike the Ridge Hauler, the Ridge Hauler does have the ability to take additional trailers as well as taking trade actions and also generating incoming for your gang. Chronos Pattern Iron Crawler, not so much. It's mainly purely made for defensive and offensive capabilities. Now, while this is all going on, of course, we have a brand new game mechanic for alliances now. So now we have a brand new alliance you can make, and you can ally yourself with the Imperial House, which is House Helmore, of course, which is really cool as well. And you may collect, so there's some benefits as well as drawbacks to this alliance. For example, one of the boons you can get, you can go to one of your territories, and you may draw a boon for a second extra time. So for example, if you want to go to a territory that gives you D6 times 10 credits, you can go through that process twice, as if you're basically tithing money from it for the Imperial House. So that's one nice thing about it as well. You also get the Enforcer Bodyguard that you can get for your delegation as well for your gang, so that part's kind of cool. However, just like with all gangs, alliances, there is a drawback, and that is called the Imperial Tax Drawback, which means that at the end of every scenario, you got to pay the House Helmore D3 times 10 credits, which is really not all that bad. At the same time, you also get what are known as Enforcer Bodyguards. That's a delegation that comes with an alliance from House Helmore. So let's go and talk about these guys as well. So, like I said before, you get 2 different bodyguards that's attached to you from House Helmore, and actually getting those Enforcer Bodyguards. Those guys are known as Paladin Companions is what they're known as. You get 2 of them. They basically have 5-inch movement, 4+ weapon skill, 3+ ballistic skill. They have 3 strength, 3 toughness, 2 wounds, 4 initiative, 1 attack, 5+ leadership, 6+ cool, 6+ willpower, as well as 7+ intelligence. So that part is kind of nice. At the same time, they also come with peerless bodyguards, which means so long as one of these guys within 2 inches of one of your fighters, you can transmit the injury to that guy as well. Now the companions are armed with stub guns, and they have a brand new weapon called a disintegration gun, which is actually quite cool. We'll talk about those here in a second. They also got layered flak armor with an armor undersuit, as well as manacles as well, and they also come with the Overwatch and fearsome skills to make them a little bit more deadly that way. So that part is nice. And now the disintegration gun is a brand new weapon that is available. Now I don't think we can purchase this weapon, unfortunately, because I think it's only available for those guys. It is given a special weapons delegation designation, so let's talk about it. It's got an 8-inch short range as well as a 24-inch long range for this weapon. It has nothing for bow accuracy for short range, but gives you -1 to hit penalty for long range. It's strength 5, so pretty deadly, -3 AP, so armor piercing definitely. Also costs 2 damage as well. It's got an ammo roll of 6 up. It's got the rapid fire 1 special trait as well, so that makes it super deadly. But it also has the scarce and unstable special rules attached to it. But what makes this weapon so deadly, it's got the sever rule. If you guys remember that, when it comes to sever, you cause an injury, no matter how many wounds you have, you automatically go out of action, because that's how devastating the disintegration gun is supposed to be. Now, I don't believe it's available for purchase for gangs, so darn it, you can't buy it. So that part's kind of sad, but still, whew, very, very deadly. Now, I will do a video separate later on with my Way of the Untitled series, where we'll talk about making an alliance with House Helmwar, but go a little bit more detail about that at a later time. Now, the last thing we're talking about real quick are the new Dramatist Personae that are available now on this set. We basically have 4 new characters that we can choose from. We have the first guy being the Prophet of the Redemption. This is the malcontent that's basically causing all the things to change with the Crusades and stuff, which is actually kind of interesting. He's actually a house agent for House Caldor, so you can't hire him. You have to ask with the D6 plus reputation roll to see if you can get this guy to help you guys or not. At the same time, this guy's a 3-up ward save called Blessed by the Lost Saint, so that way he never suffers from that. He's also Beacon of the Redemption, which means he adds +2 modifiers for cool and willpower checks as well. He can also generate dice from the Articles of Faith, and he's also an outlawed hired gun, so that's something you might want to take into consideration as well. At the same time, we also have rules now for those Forge Rule miniatures, Axon Hammer as well as Durgan Killfist. Axon Hammer, and once again, is a House Goliath house agent, so that's how you go about going that guy as well, whereas I believe Durgan's exactly the same way as well. Durgan Killfist, I believe he's also a house agent too. Oh no, I'm sorry, he's not. He's a bounty hunter, so it costs 225 credits for that guy. So you can actually add him to your gang list as well. So because of that, if you're interested in adding those Dramatist Personae from the Forge Rule line, you can do that as well. And then we have the Scrutinator Primus. That name, Scrutinator, just sounds so horrible. But anyways, Scrutinator Primus Servalin. She costs 240 credits. She has the Psychic Null ability, which means she can Psychers can't manifest psychic abilities within 6 inches of her. She's also got a Pariah special rule, which means that all friends or foes within 6 inches of her suffer -2 to their cool check. She's also got the Investigator rule, which means you can never be targeted by gang tactics. She's also Bounty Hunter as well. So if you're one of those characters who want to have that character being involved with you, that's perfectly fine. She also comes with the Sire Mastiff, which is kind of cool too. So that's the kind of thing that's kind of neat about that character. And that pretty much rounds up all the stuff that's available in this new book. So in conclusion, I believe this product is actually an excellent buy, especially if you're purchasing for the rules, for new fighters, or for those who are interested in carrying on the Aranthian Succession. If you're buying it for the lore, there is quite a bit dedicated to lore, so that part is also nice as well. The only thing I was sad about is there was no rules concerning Enforcer crews. It's kind of like every single gang is getting crew members, and you would think the Enforcers would also get crews in this supplement since they're giving them exotic beasts as well as a brute of their own, but they didn't give them any road crews, which is kind of interesting because you would figure that the cops would definitely have someone like Highway Patrol or something like that. But yeah, I'm not a guy who works at GW, so what do I know? Now, there's also really cool, interesting game mechanics in this game with the Crusading games, which are kind of neat. I think the campaign options are also kind of cool too. So if you want to add that religious fanaticism, kind of like from Mad Max Fury Road with the cult of the V8 that the War Boys practice, you could definitely do that for this and play out your Mad Max fantasies that way. So that part is kind of nice. And like I said before, it's a continuation of the Aranthian Succession campaign, so things should be quite interesting to see exactly how it works. So there you guys have it. This is my review of Necromunda Aranthian Succession Vaults of Temenos supplement. As always, please feel free to like, comment, and or subscribe. Your guys' input is invaluable to us as always. Also check us out on Facebook, Instagram, as well as blogger.com for all the latest greatest hobby news related to this channel. That's good for this week, guys. We'll catch you guys next one. Peace out and stay classy.